Hey folks, what's going on? So today I want to show you guys talking about configuration when it comes to Blender and how to make it easy for yourself and just kind of show you guys a workflow for that. So for myself, I have a workflow that I use where I've automated, I use some scripts so that I don't ever have to worry about these things again. And then also just automating the process of installing Blender and the version and setting up your environment so that you could just jump right into the work without wasting time. Because a lot of times, when working with 3D software and you're setting up on a new computer or something, and maybe you start a new job, there's situations where you have to spend the day setting up everything. You know, you got to get all your plugins, you got to get all your scripts, whatever, all your layers, make a startup file, and all these different things. Well, I mean, my solution for these kind of things is to just have it ready to go, automate the process like you're almost installing software, and then you're up and running. You can be up and running in like 10 minutes, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking today, what I want to show you guys. So I'm going to run you guys through that. And as you guys have seen in my past videos, I have a certain setup that I use, certain add-ons that I run and stuff. And so I'm going to reinstall Blender. Right now we're on 4.2.9. I'm going to install version 4. One of the latest versions, and we're going to show you guys the default setup of that. So, but then I'm going to show you how I can really just automate the process of doing my own environment that I have in 4.2 in the one of the latest versions. So let's get into that. So as you guys know, I like using the command line. So I'm going to switch over to a certain script library that I have. So I'm going to go home, programs, and then, no, we're going to go home and then pro environment, production environment. That's what that stands for. It's just short. So this is a set of scripts that I have to install software that I use. Okay. So there's certain software that I use to set up my whole environment for my computer. But I could focus it and filter it to just one thing. So I'm going to filter it to just Blender. And this is a set of scripts that I just built for myself so that I can quickly ramp up into things that I need to do if I have a new computer that I need to stand up or something like that. So let's run this. Okay, so we're going to go run, and then we're going to go phase install, and then also filter, and then Blender. And I'm going to hit escape, and I need to remove that little dash right there, and I want to hit run. So what it's doing now is installing Blender 4.4. Okay, so it's running the script that I have in this library. It's going out and it's installing a portable version of Blender that I want to use. So it's portable versus like it installing on the computer and it just works out the box. I can get on the start menu. With the portable version, I have to actually go to the exe file and launch it from there. Okay, and that's okay. I can set it up so that it's in the start menu and everything. My thing is I like to organize my computer in such a way where everything is in one place and it's easy to move around or do things that I need to do with the software, because in Windows, files tend to get scattered all over the place and I tend not to like that. So that's why I'm using the portable version, and it also makes it easier to config for myself too. Okay, so now that we got that installed, let's go ahead and launch it. So we installed it here in programs, list that out. So there's Blender 4.4. And we're going to go into that folder, and then we can see that the Blender exe is right there. So I'm going to type in Blender exe, and then we're going to launch it. Okay, so it's launching right now, and it's launching through the command line. So you might see some other information pop up since it is running through the command line. And I'm going to switch my workspace. So it already actually automatically switched. So as you can see, we got Blender 4.4.3, and as you recognize, you know, we're in our original startup that Blender comes with, right? We got the camera, cube, light, and so on. So this is how Blender usually starts up, right? But what if I need it to quickly ramp up and start up in my environment by default right after I install? Okay, so let's repeat that process, but this time we're just going to set up everything at once, and it's going to just take a short amount of time. Okay, so this is Blender 4.4.3, and then we got 4.2, right, over here with my original environment. So we're going to have it config itself so that it always launches like this by default. And that's really fast. A lot of times, again, these things can take a long time. So let's go ahead and close this out. And I'm going to close 4.2 out too. And then we're going to switch back here. Okay. And then we're going to uninstall it. So I actually have a script to uninstall this portable version of Blender too. So we'll go back to pro-env, and then I'm going to go run. I keep doing 2 flags. That's for Linux. Phase, and then uninstall here. So we're going to go uninstall, and then we're going to go filter Blender. Okay. So let's run that. So now it's going to go in and remove Blender from here. And we're going to do the process all over again. Okay. So we removed it. It's gone. All right. So let's start over. So now we're going to go run, and then phase. Actually, we're not going to do a phase this time because we're going to run the install, and then we're also going to run the config also. So we're just going to go filter Blender, and it's going to run both. So this is going to take a little bit longer, but not as long. Okay. So again, it's going in, running the script. It's finding if the program's directory exists, which it does. It's giving that check mark. Now it's downloading Blender from the on the FTP site, and now it's extracting it. And this is all in the script. Okay, so where I'm actually downloading this from is that FTP site that gives every single version of Blender in that old HTML format where you can download in different formats. That's where it's pulling it. So I just did something called the invoke web request in my scripting. So that's how that's happening. And then it's just downloading it, expanding it, renaming the folder, and then removing the installation files since we don't need those. And now the installation is complete. Now it's going into the config phase, and now it's setting up my config files. Okay, so now it's copying my config files from a Dropbox link that I put them in. So I keep my config files in a Dropbox, and now it's just downloading it with the same command, the invoke web request, expanding that archive, right? So it's unzipping the folder, and then it's putting it in its proper place, and then it should be done almost after this. Okay. So I love this because it makes things so fast, so easy, because you can just quickly jump into things, and you don't have to sit there and it's like, where are these files? Where is that file? I can't find this thing. Even my add-ons, they're all in there, and it's just going to launch. And I can update this stuff over time too, which is great. So like, that's the whole benefit of this. And I just want to show you guys this process to give you guys ideas. I'm not saying like do what I do, because I know there's some level of like learning when it comes to doing scripting and technical stuff like this, but you could do it on different levels too, where you could just keep your config file somewhere, copy and paste that into a certain folder, right? And do some of these things manually. But for me, I've learned some bit of programming in the past, so I'm able to automate it in a better fashion for myself. Okay. So again, the files are copying right now. It's almost done, and we'll get there, and then we'll launch Blender, and we can launch it into my new config, and then I can uninstall it whenever I want to uninstall it too. And I'm just calling it by the version. So maybe I'll walk you guys through the script too once this wraps up. It's about almost there. So we're about, say, 90-80% right now. And then we'll jump into Blender 4.4.3. I think that 4.2.10 just came out. I stick in 4.2 right now because I like to stay in the LTS versions of Blender. So I actually don't really use every iteration of Blender that comes out, because it's a development thing, right? So I don't need to keep switching versions and then getting caught up on everything. I'd rather just stay in a long-term version, which is what LTS is. Okay, so it finished. All right, so now we're in the programs folder. Let's switch to Blender, and then we're gonna launch it. So Blender exe, and then we'll launch Blender, and it will launch into my config. Okay, so as you can see, it's taking a little longer to load because it's loading my config, or my environment per se, and we'll see it as just 4.2. Okay, so it's almost there. It's just loading. Give it a couple minutes, or not a couple minutes, couple seconds, and we'll be there. Switch back. And I'm running it in the command line, so that's why this information is popping up. When you launch Blender from the command line, this is what happens. You'll see all this information pop up in the command line. All right, almost there. and launch. It usually doesn't take this long. Maybe it's because it's the first time launching this way. All right, so there it is. All right, so as you can see, we're in version 4.4.3 here on the bottom right, and it's launched in my config. So like, again, this is great, right? Because we can just quickly ramp up into using Blender how we want, right? And so, you know, 4.4.3. So this is great. I love this. I love this way I've been able to automate this process, because it makes things so much easier for me in the future. As I have like one thing I want to do is buy a new computer down the road, and I can easily set that computer up really fast by running this script, right? So cool. Let's close this out. Let's switch back. I should get my thing back now. Cool. So we're done with that. And then if you guys want to go through the script real quick, I can run you guys through that, and then see pro-env, switch there, and then we'll launch Vim, and then I'll open up some of the Blender scripts. So we'll start with the install script. So this is the install script. So we're picking the version, and we're setting up paths here and extensions and all this thing. These are all variables that I set at the top, and they're all reused throughout the functions that I have here. So this function here, right, as you can see, this is the check directory. So it's checking if the program's directory exists first. So I make a custom directory in the home directory called programs. So it's checking if it exists. And then if it exists, it moves past. If it doesn't exist, it'll go ahead and create that folder. And then from there, we move on to the install function. And as I said, the invoke web request. That's what's happening here. And it's downloading the file. It's expanding the archive, which is unzipping. And then it's renaming some stuff. And then all this stuff is commented out. I actually don't need this, so I could probably delete all this information. So I could delete that. So I don't need that information. So also it's removing items, which is the installation files, and then it's complete, right? This function right here does not run yet. This is a function that I'm building right now that I haven't finished, but the gist of it is that this does the installing process. So the next one is the config. So this is the config, which takes my config files, downloads them, and then unzips them, copies them to the right locations, and then also removes the remaining stuff so that everything is a clean setup. And then it's done. And then also we got the uninstall Blender right here. So this will uninstall Blender for me. And then it goes through, searches for that folder, deletes it, and everything is done. Deletes the config files right here too. And then we're all done, right? Keeping everything clean and concise. So that's the whole process. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, I wanted to just give you guys some ideas of how you can approach this. Let me switch over here. So I wanted to give you guys some ideas of how you can approach doing something like this. So I'll check you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.